When you're cornering or turning in a vehicle, it is always best to make sure that you do your deceleration, slowing down and braking before you actually enter the turn. When you slow down, it pushes the weight of the vehicle to the front axle. Now the front axle, its main job is for steering. So if you come to a turn and you're turning right, and as you're turning you slow down, what you actually do is you throw the weight to the front of the car and then you push all the weight over to the front left wheel, because that's where all the weight's going as you're cornering. Now, what this means is that the front left tyre has the responsibility of keeping you in the line that you want to go by how you're steering, but it also means that it has to keep traction on the road. Now, if you slow down before you get to your bend, and then as you come around the bend, you gently accelerate out, what you actually do is push the weight to the back of the vehicle, meaning the back tyres have the job of keeping your traction on the road, and the front wheels have the job of keeping you in the line of direction that you're steering in. It's also a good idea when turning at speed to make sure that your turns are wide. So what that means is as you come into the turn, you come out to the outside of the lane, and as you turn through the corner, you come in towards the inside. What that does is it gives your car a better opportunity to gain traction on the road because it's causing less of a curve as you're coming into the bend. Now, another very important thing is tyres. If you are running summer tyres in the winter, your summer tyres have a much harder compound in the rubber, which means that they will have less traction on the asphalt. If you're driving with winter tyres, they're a lot softer and more pliable, and what they'll do is they'll almost mold to the road as you take the corner, and it keeps a lot better traction and hold on the road as you go around. Having underinflated or overinflated tyres can also cause issues. If your tyres are underinflated, they will essentially balloon. So if your tyres were sat like this whilst they're perfectly inflated, when they're underinflated, they're more of a balloon shape. And what that means is as the vehicle goes around the corner, as you're turning to the right, the wheel is trying to lean, and what that does is it forces the tyre to lean outwards. Now, if your tyres are underinflated and that happens too much, you could have the possibility of the tyre coming off of the rim. If your tyres are overinflated, which is the opposite, as the tyre goes around the bend, it is trying to move but can't. So instead of forgiveness being given in the tyre's walls for movement, it keeps rigid and the whole tyre will move instead. It also means that the actual surface area of the tyre, for example, if your tyre is inflated how it should be, it will be sat like this with a lot of surface area on the tyres and on the asphalt. But if you overinflate your tyres, the tyre does this, and as you can see, the bottom palms of the fingers of my hands have less surface area on the road, which means that you have less traction. Underinflated tyres do the opposite. So the middle of the tyre is slightly more slightly more in, and the outside of the tyres is slightly more out. This still gives you less traction, but also means that because of the ballooning, you could also lose traction due to the wheel slipping. Tyre tread is also very important. As you can see, this tyre has plenty of tread on it, and there's actually indicators inside the tyre grooves that show you how low the tyre can be until it's essentially illegal or unsafe. Now, when the tyre has plenty of groove and plenty of tread, if you are slowing down or cornering in wet weather, these grooves allow the water to travel through the tyre and out through these grooves. If your tyres are bald, it means that the water, instead of going through these grooves, will actually become a problem because it's going between the tyre and the asphalt and essentially could cause aquaplaning. So these grooves are very important, not just to look good and to be legal, but also for safety, especially in wet weather. These particular tyres are all-season tyres. They're designed for an all-rounder, all-year use, which means that they're not too hard compound, but they're also not too soft. So they're designed for if you're living in a climate where maybe you have rain quite often, but you don't that often get snow or ice. Now, your car also has two systems that it uses electronically. These are called ESP and ABS. Now, ESP is called the Electronic Stability Program. The ABS is called the Anti-Lock Braking System. Now, they both work to opposite sides on each other. So an Electronic Stability Program will actually take into account the speed of each wheel. Now, if you're going around a corner and as you accelerate, one wheel starts to slip, what the ESP does is it actually takes the power from that wheel or that axle, depending on what drive system you have, and it distributes the power to the other wheels to allow them to give you the traction while that wheel gets its grip again. The ABS, unlike the ESP, is actually something that stops your vehicle from skidding when slowing down. So if you've noticed on the highway, you see tire marks where it's like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. That's the ABS cutting in, and what that system does is it momentarily takes the brake or the power, depending if it's working with the ESP or not, off of that wheel. So if you're braking very hard and you come into a skid, the ABS will take the brakes off of that wheel momentarily to let it gain traction again. So essentially, as you're slowing down and you're skidding, you start to skid, and the ABS comes in and it turns it off and on, off and on, off and on, and that allows the wheel to essentially have double the amount of traction that it would have had, because instead of skidding, it's now actually braking and doing its job. If your vehicle is a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive, especially with all-wheel drive vehicles, you'll most likely have a 60 to 40 ratio on power. What that means is that the rear wheels actually have 60% of the power going to them, and the front wheels have 40. Now this is a good thing, because it means that the rear wheels can concentrate on making the power, and the front wheels can concentrate on making the turn.